Hello and welcome to the inaugural Coaches Helper podcast, where we explore what makes business owners and coaches truly successful, in addition to discovering the limitations and obstacles that are holding them back from the success they are eager to achieve. I'm your host and coach, Robert Cabeca, and in this very first podcast, I am honored to introduce you to Sarah J. Pitts, a coach and best-selling author of her newest book, Stop Doing It All. So please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as I am certain that this interview will provide you important information to take your business to the next level. Please allow me to welcome and introduce Sarah J. Pitts, the best-selling author of Stop Doing It All. Hi, Sarah. Welcome, and thank you for joining our podcast.
Hey, Robert, thanks for having me.
So glad you're here. Hey, even from across the pond.
Yes, I do. Yes. So I'm in the UK right now. I live here. So this is international for you.
Yes, it's fantastic. So let's start out with the first question. Tell us a little bit about your background and what led you to write this wonderful book, Stop Doing It All.
Okay, so I help solo business owners to basically get unstuck from the bottlenecks and the things that are overwhelming them, the things that just get in their way. So I've been working one-to-one with business owners now for a few years. I've worked with hundreds of them. And it seems to me that getting things done and moving the needle forward is something that we all really care about. But we have many different things to do. Some people call them hats. I call them other full-time jobs because generally I basically help to streamline that whole process so that you're not focusing on 15 million things at once. You can just be like, right, now I know what I need to do today, because I found that confident clarity and direction are the things that drive a person's productivity more than just writing everything down on a checklist and just checking them off when they've done it.
And you said a whole lot right there that every entrepreneur, business owner needs to re-listen to, because if there's one thing that I know as a multi-business owner myself, is that there is so much going on all at one time, and the feeling and the need to become an expert in just about everything that we got going on, and not just an expert, but having to do it perfectly, to do it right, because so much is at stake. How did your background, now you had a background after reading your book in sports injury treatment and coaching, and how did that influence your approach to productivity in business? How does that relate with each other?
It's interesting because I started out my career as a physical education teacher. So I went to university, you guys call it college, to be a physical education teacher in a high school. So I failed my high school teaching practice. And I was like, okay, if I'm not going to do that, then what am I going to do? And so I fell into personal training because I realized that I was really good at the one-to-one. I wanted in a group of, let's say I was teaching a class of 30 kids, and there was one kid that couldn't coordinate hitting a shuttlecock with a badminton racket. I would want to be spending the time with that individual, helping them to connect those two things and get that done, whereas the rest of the group were just happy playing. But I knew as a group teacher I couldn't do that. And so when all that kind of disappeared, I went into personal training, and I got bored really quickly with the general kind of, I want to lose weight and tone up, because there's only so many ways you can say, eat less, move more, before you get really fed up with it. And injuries was the thing that was affecting my life. I've always been about as flexible as a brick. So I never really had a great range of emotion or anything like that. And I had back pain. And I went to see somebody about that, and the person did it too hard, and they strained the ligaments in my spine. So at the age of 23, I had hip pain, knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain. And I thought I was going to be bionic by the time I was 40. And it left my body so sensitive to usual physical intervention that I had to find my own way around that. And I think because of that, it helped me to see pain and discomfort in a totally different light. It helped me to appreciate the compassionate side of that, the emotional side of that, and just how debilitating it can be when somebody is in pain. And it occurred to me when I was writing the book that since I transitioned away from the sports injury treatment side of things, I've been approaching the business side of things in exactly the same way. Because what I found is that physical pain and emotional pain manifest in exactly the same ways. So somebody can be in chronic physical pain, and if they feel stressed about that or they feel uncomfortable about that, the additional emotional stress makes those physical pains worse.
Mm.
And it's the same the other way around. Physical pain makes emotional stress worse. And for me, the physical pain treatment side of things, the way that I approach that and the way that I approach the emotional stress of being in business for yourself, having to do so much for yourself and all that kind of thing, the approach was pretty much the same. I just didn't realize it until I was writing the book.
How did that make you feel when you had that aha moment?
Yeah. Honestly, I really struggled writing this book. It's not the first book I've written. I've written other ones on injury treatments and things like that. And those seem to flow so easy. And this one, I really struggled to figure out what my unique angle was and the approach that I was taking. And I think because it had been part of my life and part of my psyche for so long, I just didn't even notice that was what was happening until I had to write it out in words and explain my way of doing things to people who had never come across it before. And when I've been explaining it in the sports injury world, it made a load of sense. But it occurred to me that nobody seemed to be talking about it in the business world. And that gave me a unique angle. And the fact that it tied so nicely with what I've been doing for the whole of my life, basically, I was like, oh, now this gives me a whole lot more confidence to go out and do the things that I just couldn't bring myself to do when I was in the sports injury world. So that was exciting.
Yeah, very much. And for anyone else who's an author out there, you probably know a similar experience where you're trying to describe something and you're writing it out, and all of a sudden you've created this connection that you didn't realize existed before. And it's such a wonderful experience. And speaking of your book, in your book, you mentioned that you're terrible at multitasking. I find that hard to believe. However, can you share more about how you discovered this about yourself?
Yeah, I get really stressed very quickly when I have half jobs finished, right? So I know now, having been trying to be productive the whole of my life. I never really considered myself as a productive person. I wouldn't say that I was a huge expert or anything. It's just I've always managed to get things done on time. And for me, I prefer to focus on one thing and check off that one thing and then move on to the next thing. I find that the more I learn about myself, the easier it is to handle multiple tasks going on at once, but I can't focus on multiple tasks at once. Does that make sense? So I think multitasking is a myth. I don't think anybody can seriously focus on two different things at one time and do them properly. So I can handle multiple projects, and I think most of us can. It's just how we divide our attention. And for me, it's that attention has to be focused on that one thing until it's time to stop or until that's finished. And it's the way that I work with my clients because they know that when I get to their job, that's going to have my undivided attention until it's finished. So I block out my time based now on the projects that I have and how much I know I can get done without worrying about, oh, I've got 50 other things to think about. And tools like to-do lists and all that kind of stuff really help. And when I have lots of projects on the go at once, I try not to overload my schedule because that in itself is stressful to me. So I try and just cut. I think somebody described it the other day as be compartmentalizing. Apparently, I'm quite good at that rather than multitasking.
And me, in my world of expertise, and for many years, I believed that multitasking was the solution to everything. And even though I can have multiple ideas going on at one time and thinking about creating solutions for multiple things, I can only do one thing at one time. And how I do that one thing has to be the best it can be. I built many data centers in the IT world, and you're thinking of so many things and so many consequences if something doesn't go right. Even fooling myself to think that I can be thinking about multiple things simultaneously is really an illusion. Right? It just happens that those thoughts come really fast. That is not the same as multitasking. So, yeah, I can tell that this is going to be a prickly thorn for many entrepreneurs who are listening to this right now. What do you mean I can't multitask? Of course I can multitask. And the thing is, and forgive me for adding this here, but when we change subjects, when we change our action from one thing to another, there is a spin down and a spin up time. So you lose that time
Yeah.
from the time you're spinning down from what you're doing to the time it takes. And there's a longer ramp up time
Yes.
for what you're going to do next,
Yeah.
as opposed to doing one thing consistently and
Yeah.
being focused on that one thing where you've got energy from A to Z, instead of wasting that energy.
I was deep in thinking about one person, like one client, and I was doing some work for them, and a different client phoned me. And I don't normally do it. I normally let it ring. If I'm in the middle of something, I normally let it ring and call that person back when I've got the brain space to think about it. But I did, I answered the phone, and they started talking about their project, and my brain was totally in the other project. And I had to just say to them, look, I'm really sorry. I've been focusing on something else. Give me a few minutes. Let's just talk. You and me, let's just talk for a few minutes so that I can get my head back into your project. And after that, the conversation went well, but it's exactly what you said. There's that spin down time. And then getting back to the project that I was working on took ages because I was trying to get my head out of the other person's project and back into what I'd been working on. So
But
yeah.
what you did with that client when you took that call is really significant, because a lot of times I know for myself, I won't do that. I'll just pretend that I'll yes them to death. Yeah, yeah. And I got no idea what they're talking about. And giving yourself that opportunity to connect with them and get on that frequency changes everything. Fantastic. That's a great example. But why do you think that so many entrepreneurs, like myself, maybe, believe that multitasking is necessary, even though it may not work?
I think the idea of multitasking has probably come about from like the hustle culture. So the idea of you have to be getting as much stuff done as you possibly can in one go. And I think a lot of people just take that to mean that they have to rush the stuff that they're doing or do multiple things at once or whatever that is. But it's my experience that the clearer you are on what needs doing, the faster you can move forwards. If they didn't know what the artwork was going to look like, then they'd probably collect everything. And by the time they got home, they'd have a backpack full of stuff that was really heavy. But if they knew exactly what they were going to create, they would dismiss a lot of the things that they're picking up and putting in their backpack. They would just be like, that, don't need that. I'm looking for this particular type of stone or this particular type of flower or whatever it is. And you would go specifically for those things and ignore everything else. And that's really what clarity does to your productivity. It allows you to just focus on the things that are going to make the difference for your business, the things that you need. And it helps you to eliminate all of those distractions that you think you need, but you don't. And that, to me, is a more effective way of being productive than trying to do everything at once.
So I'm going to withhold my questions or responses to that, because I think that this is a great lead in to be able to ask you to explain for us briefly, what is the potent productivity method and how does it help people who are struggling with the illusion of multitasking?
Yeah, so the potent productivity method is made up of 3 parts. And for me, it's where without the clarity and all the things of these 3 parts, this is where solo business owners get overwhelmed. They have problems in their business, which increases the stress and all that kind of stuff. So the 3 areas of the potent productivity method are clarity, balance, and direction. So clarity comes from 6 foundational pieces. So what is my credibility? What is my relevance? That's an area where lots of people, that imposter syndrome and all those sorts of things, that doubt, that comparison, it all comes from not really being clear on how you are relevant to your audience and giving yourself the belief that you are good enough. Without that clarity, without that intrinsic belief, doubt starts to creep in, and that leads to hesitation, and hesitation leads to no action at all. It's really what I have learned over years of working one-to-one with business owners is if the 6 areas of foundational pieces are not in place, then doubt starts to creep in. So it's like building up layers of doubt busters. So you've got the 6 foundational pieces, for those who haven't read the book yet, are your credibility, your relevance, right? Then there's your audience. So who is it that is willing and able to pay you to hear your message, to listen to you? Who is it that you really care about helping? I've been in situations before where I thought the audience made sense for the stuff that I was doing, and I couldn't care less about the conversations they were having. I thought, because I was treating a lot of triathletes, I thought if I move my business online, I can sell it to triathletes. I'm already working with them. What I didn't realize was that I hated conversations about which bike had the best pedals and which running shoes were most effective and what material wetsuits were made of. And I don't care. But these people really care about that stuff. So that clearly wasn't the right audience for me. And so I was questioning myself rather than, am I talking to the right people? And again, it's a doubt buster. When you know that the audience that you're talking to is really interested in everything that you have to say, they really love everything that you're saying, and you feel like you love helping them, then it's just a win-win combo, because it's a horrible place to be when you feel like you don't belong somewhere. And so the third thing is your USP. And this is why this book took me so long to write, with
What's USP?
your unique selling proposition. I like to call it your unique angle. What is it that's different about you and the way that you do things? It's always a process that you've been living with for decades, right? It's just you. It's the way that you do things. It's your approach to stuff. And it's knowing what that is and calling it something exciting that gets you excited about your approach. Because as soon as you do that, you sound different. It sounds interesting to everybody else. And it stops you thinking, oh, I'm just another personal trainer, or I'm just another business coach. It's like, oh, actually, this is what's different to me. And it always creates that curiosity from people like you who've just asked me, what is this potent productivity method? So that's the third thing. Then the fourth thing is your core offer, right? So what is the crux of your business, and how is your business going to develop into an ecosystem of stuff that brings everybody back to that core offer? Lots and lots of times I've seen so many solo business owners, and they're creating a new book or a new course or a new video training or a masterclass or something, because it doesn't lead anybody to any of the other things. They're not cohesive. They're just random bits of stuff. And when you have random bits of stuff in a business, it separates your attention, divides your attention. So then if you've got 5 different items or products or services out there and none of them are cohesive, then you have 5 different areas of your business that need attention. But when those 5 products and services are all very cohesive, it just makes sense. And you don't have to divide your attention. It presents you as an expert in what you're doing because you never talk about anything else. And it gives you a real sense of stability and confidence in what you're doing, because I don't need to create another opt-in today, or I don't need to create another course today, because you've got enough to go on. You just need to get out there and promote it, or whatever it is that you need to do. The fifth thing is your online presence. So loads of people think that websites are dead, but the advantage of having your own website is that it's a message that is easy to find for people, because I don't know about you, but there must be 100,000 Sarah Pizzas in the world. and they'll be just the same as many. And so when they're Googling you or searching you on Facebook, unless you're some huge influencer that can come to the top of the search engine, they don't know if they've got the right person or not. But if they type in robertcabeca.com, they go straight to your website. There's no other person that can have that domain name. You give that domain name out to people, they know exactly where to find you. It's a message that you control, that you share with the world. This book isn't showing people, it shows people posts from years ago that you might not want people to see anymore because you might have moved on from them. Well, it's your message to the world, and it's a place where you know people can find you. And again, that gives you that sense of confidence, that stability, so you don't doubt that people can find you, and you're not doubting that the message that they're getting about you. You're controlling all of that. And then the sixth thing is tracking the numbers. So loads of people just hope that what they put out into the world will end up making them money. But they don't look at the numbers that make that hope reality. So they don't know where to change things. They don't know what's working and what isn't. I have had no training in business, and all of my family members are all business owners, but they all had training from somebody else. I never did. So when I was personal training and I was running my own business, that's how it all started. I was getting money in from my clients, and I was getting enough money in to pay my bills. I was missing out on so much information because I didn't know which part of the funnel that I was sending people to was broken, which bits were working. So I'd just go, oh, I'm not making any more sales, and this must not be working. I'll try something else. And you just ditch the whole thing and start again. And it could have been, just one simple tweak, and it could have made the whole thing work. This is the foundation of business, and this is what gives people the confidence. It gets rid of the doubt. And then making sure that you have balance across your attention, your tasks that you're doing, because we're creatures of habit, human beings. When I'm thinking about what I might have for dinner, I might have 5 or 6 core recipes that I go back to when my brain won't choose. And we're the same in business and the tasks that we do. We have habits. We go, oh, I'll create some content in the morning. I'll send emails in the afternoon. I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll do dinner. And when we're not careful, we drift into focusing on one aspect or 2 aspects of the business at the detriment of the rest of it. So there's 5 areas across that balance that we need to focus our business tasks on, whether we're doing it or whether somebody else is doing it. And they are your goals, which is a surprisingly neglected with solo business owners because they focus so much on customers and what their customers are getting and delivering on their promises. So their goals, your own goals, get shoved to the side a lot of the time. But that's often how we assess our own worth. And so when we feel like we're not enough, it might be because we're not earning enough money. But are we measuring a goal? Are we doing anything to help put those at the forefront of what we're doing? So there's your goals, there's customer care, there's adding value, there's spreading the word, and there's delivering on your promises. And like I said, if we're not careful, we tend to focus on 1 or 2 of those areas and the rest go by the wayside. And then the direction is what happens when things go wrong. What happens when you feel stuck or you feel overwhelmed or something feels too difficult? What do you do about that? Those 3 phases, the clarity, the balance, and the direction, in a nutshell, are what the potent productivity method is all.
And that's just a nutshell. Yeah, wow. You provided so much content there that there's so much to unpack. And this is where I would say, yeah, go get the book, read the book, and then reach out to Sarah for more information. Because you could tell there's so much in here. Wow, that's fantastic. So one of the other things that I'll glean this out of there is that you talked about stress and managing multiple aspects of the business and having to switch hats and things like this. So what is like the biggest, quickest tool that a business owner can use to help discover or determine if they're just trying too hard and they're just like on the wrong path? Yeah, basically you talked about when we're wearing multiple hats, as a business owner, you were trying to take care of employees, we're trying to take care of sales, trying to take care of marketing. all these different things. So what's a tool that a business owner like myself could use to help me recognize when I'm pushing too hard, trying too hard, and I'm just getting distracted?
Yeah. So one of the things I talk about in the book is what I like to call the pathetic productivity line.
The
Okay.
pathetic productivity line.
Yes. Okay. So let
Okay.
me be clear. I am not calling your productivity pathetic. Okay.
Oh,
So what I noticed when I'm in overwhelm, and I know it for so many other people as well, is we just go back to the very, very minimum that we can handle.
okay.
Okay. So your pathetic productivity line is what you consider to be that minimum, right? It might be 10 times more than somebody else considers their minimum, but it's your personal standard of the minimum that you will allow yourself to do in a day. So it might just be answering emails and creating content. It might be spending 10 minutes on social media. It might be just doing a headline on a sales page or something like that. But we all have, out of the habits that we have in the day, we all have this standard that we hold ourselves to, because if we didn't, we wouldn't be solo business owners, right? Because, well, if we don't do it, nobody else will. We have this expectation of ourselves that we can get a lot done. And when we don't meet that expectation, we just have, oh, well, if I can't do anything else, I'll just do this today. That's what your pathetic productivity line is. Identifying it is one of the biggest things that you can do as a solo business owner, because it's amazing when you identify something, and especially when you're writing it down, it's amazing how it jumps to the forefront of your brain quicker than it would do if it was just, oh, I didn't do very much today. I used to do this with my clients when they were hacking their pain. I would have them just keep a journal for a week on their pain, because after day 3 of writing exactly the same thing, they start to notice patterns. And when you're aware of those patterns, you can do something to change them. So oftentimes we slip into what we consider to be pathetic for ourselves, and we just stay there for weeks or months or even sometimes years, just skirting by on the minimum we can get done. And life feels so stressful that we can't do any more than that line. So what I ask people to do is just jot down at the end of the day, be aware of that line and how close you are to it. When you're not getting stuff done, that is a clear sign that you need help, or that you're overwhelmed, or something needs to change. There's like your potent productivity limit. So like at the opposite end of the spectrum, you've got your pathetic line and your potent productivity limit, which is you are crushing it, right? You're getting so much done, but you're so tired because you've got so much done that you start to slip down the spectrum. You can only stand that extreme for so long. And when you know those two extremes, then you can start to manage yourself and your energy and your time a lot clearer, a lot more quickly, and a lot more effectively.
That's a great description. And I directly relate that to Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, and the first one being survival. When we're in survival mode, we are only able to do those basic things,
Yes.
that keep us alive. And as a business owner, when I had my restaurant, my chocolate shop, my other businesses, things like that, there were times when I couldn't do other things because I was so focused on the survival of the business. And grant that's important. And if that means only being able to do A, B, and C over and over again until you get things where they need to be so that you can start doing those other things that allow you to regrow and be more productive, then that's what it takes. But until you get out of that survival mode, or repeat that, the pathetic, your pathetic line,
Pathetic productivity line, yeah.
productivity line, the pathetic product. And so I can also relate that to where it's like, this is all I need to do to be successful, right? And thinking that, oh, if I just do this, this, and this, that everything's going to work out magically. And so that is just also fooling myself without that clarity. If I'm not clear about what is required for me to succeed in my business,
Yes.
then I will never take the right actions. I'll just be taking actions based on assumptions.
That's where busyness comes in. So you think that because you're busy, that you're getting
Right.
it done.
Yeah.
You're just being distracted by a bunch of stuff you don't need to do.
Yes. And that's why I hate to-do lists. To-do lists are ridiculous, and I think they should be banned, because they're great. They're great to give you a sense of accomplishment, but to-do lists are filled with busy tasks, because if what I am doing is not taking me in the direction of accomplishing my goal, then that's wasted effort.
But then it shouldn't be on your to-do list.
So that's my point, is that it shouldn't have a to-do list,
But I
right?
need
So
a to-do list.
as a
I need
because a to-do list is like, okay, got to go grocery shopping, got to do laundry, got to make the bed. To me, that's a to-do list.
Okay.
All right. In business, no. If my goal, if I have a monthly goal to increase my revenue by 10%, all right, I need to break that down into weekly action, 2.5% growth per week for 4 weeks. Okay, take that 2.5%, break it down by 7 days. I need to grow my business by 0.7% each day. So today, I need to focus on growing my business by this much. So every action that I'm doing today is geared towards accomplishing that goal. So anything on my list should be in alignment with, yeah. Okay.
They are on my list. That's what I'm saying to you. Because my memory is like a sieve. So if I don't write it down, it just doesn't get done.
I've had so many clients that hate writing things down for lots of different reasons. But the point is that they don't want to write things down because they feel it takes away from the creativity, the spontaneity. But that's what's keeping them from their success.
Yeah.
You've got to get it out of here onto paper so that you can have that clarity about what that next right step is to get you where you want to be. Otherwise, it's wasted effort.
Yeah. And if I see something on my to-do list that I know that I'm just not going to get done, then I could easily hand that off to somebody else and check it off when that person's done it. It doesn't mean to say that I have to do it. It just means it needs to get done. Oh,
yeah.
There's lots of different ways of using to-dos, and I personally do love them. I like colors. I like checking things off lists. I even write things on the list to check it off when I've done it and I forgot to write it on. You and I are very different, but I think it just depends on you. And this is why the potent productivity method is not about teaching you a way of doing things. It's not the perfect way and like you have to conform to it. It's a set of principles. It's a set of strategies that you can apply to your life, that they work for you, not the other way around. So if you don't like to-do lists, don't use them, but use the method to get the stuff done, because it isn't about how much stuff you get done. It's about moving your business forward.
Exactly. Some people put on their to-do list, go to college, buy a new house. That's not a to-do list. Those are goals. And then the actions that lead you to accomplishing those goals being very specific.
Yes, but it's the actions that got me to.
It's the action. So let me ask you a question in regards to the potent productivity method. So what are just like 2 or 3 practical ways that your potent productivity method can help entrepreneurs in a situation just like this?
Have what I call the 4 R's of potent productivity. Okay. And that is the direction element of the method. So this is when things start to go wrong. You don't really see how you're going to get out of this situation. Maybe it feels too big to deal with. And so the 4 R's are recognize. So 1, you need to recognize that there's a problem. Okay. And so often we're so deep in what we're doing that we don't see that there's a problem. Then the second R is reality. So sometimes we recognize there's a problem, but the only thing that we recognize is this symptom of the problem. When you get real about why that problem is happening and what you can do about it, then we can start to develop the next R, which is a roadmap. That's a step-by-step plan of how you're going to move forward. So you can stop thinking about the panic and the overwhelm that the perceived problem is causing you. And then the fourth R is reassurance, right? We do everything by ourselves in solo business. We're responsible for everything. Am I doing it right? Am I on the right path? How do I know I'm doing the right thing? You can get reassurance from all sorts of different places. You can get it from the data that we were talking about tracking earlier. You can get it from other people. You can get it from the clarity that you've created. You can get it from all sorts of different places. But it's really important to give yourself that reassurance that the action steps that you're taking are going to be in the right direction.
Fantastic.
An example the other day came to mind. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she's going to a conference in the next couple of months. And in fact, I think it's a few weeks away. And she has so much stuff to do. And normally they don't tell her what needs doing. They just dump it on her and expect her to have done it by the time she gets there. They've given her a bit more lead time this time round, but they've put more stuff on her plate. So she's got more time to do it, but she's got more to do. So she was just like, oh, I'm not going to get all of this stuff done. I'm like, okay. So what is it that they're really asking? And so she had a little think about that, and she was like, oh, okay, so they need me to do X, Y, Z, as I say, Z, as you say. And so I was like, okay, so if that's what they really want, how are we going to give them that? What do you have available to you right now that will help you move forwards in this situation? I'm not talking about creating something new because that's stressful. You don't have the time for that. What do you have at your disposal right now that you could use? And she was like, oh, actually, I've got a presentation that I was going to do for something else, but it would work in this situation. I'm like, great, let's just finish that. Okay, so now I need to finish it and I need to send it to them. We recognized what the problem was. We recognized what the reality of the situation was. Then we had a plan to do something about it. And she knew, because she knows these people, that what she was doing was what they wanted and what they needed. And she had the reassurance of knowing that she didn't have to create something new from scratch that was going to take her ages and be so stressful. So just by taking that step back so that she could look at it in a different way, take the blinders off that have been creating the panic, that in itself gave her the reassurance to just get on with it. And she did.
Thank you for that example. And I'm remembering in the third chapter of your book, you were talking about how productivity is less about action strategy and more about emotion strategy. So can you elaborate a little bit on how emotions influence productivity?
Yeah, we are emotional human beings, right? That's what we are. There's I can't remember the exact page it's on, but there's a quote inside of a book called The Chimp Paradox by Dr. Steve Peters, and he's a sports psychologist, and he was saying that the emotional brain kicks in 5 times quicker than the logical brain, right?
Yeah.
So you will react to something with emotion 5 times faster than you will react to it with logic. So if your emotions are running riot in your brain, in your being, then it doesn't make any sense to allow them to destroy your logical plan, right? And it's easily done. So you could be as organized as you like. You could have the best plan in the world, following whatever method you want for productivity, including this one, right? But if you don't have emotional stability, if you don't have confidence, if you can't stay emotionally stable in everything that you're trying to do in your business, then somebody cutting you up in a line or in the traffic, or somebody who's really negative, or somebody who just rubbed you up the wrong way that day can totally ruin everything that you had planned. But when you know how to control that and how to have that stability, it's easier to bounce back from that emotional disruption back to your plan because you have emotion behind it all. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's one thing that I've said for many years with my clients too, is if you are basing your decisions on your emotions, you are not going to make great decisions consistently. because our emotions will change thousands of times a day.
Yes.
I'm just gonna, go with the flow and everything else like that. Yeah, no, that just didn't work at all.
No.
And that's why some of the most challenging business owners that I work with are the ones who really refuse to take their magnificent ideas and get it out on paper so that they can have that strategy to build that structure that they need. You can't have a house without structure. And that structure is what gives the emotions the ability to energize you towards
Absolutely.
accomplishing
Yeah.
those goals.
When I was dealing with people in pain, it was amazing to me how powerful the emotions were in controlling that pain. So if you're feeling depressed or you're feeling sad or you're feeling angry or you're feeling trapped, a lot of people feel trapped by their pain. It makes the pain worse. But if people feel like, oftentimes in pain situations, it has a name. It has like an itis or a syndrome or something like that. And people think that they're going to be stuck with this, I don't know, itis forever. They think it's something they're never going to get rid of. And they would come to me and I would assess their body and I would just go, can you feel this joint moving? Well, no, not really. Okay, so can you feel this one stuck? Oh, yeah. Okay, that muscle is hurting because this doesn't move. It's just stuck. And the difference between I'm going to be stuck with this forever to, oh, I just need to get it moving, the difference in emotional shift is huge.
Yeah.
And that in itself would reduce people's pain. It would reduce their anxiety around the pain. It would help them to take control of the situation and move forwards because they knew what the problem was underneath it all. So being able to channel your emotions and create that stability of confidence, that unshakable self-belief. But all right, we all have wobbles. I'm not going to say that I don't doubt myself anymore. It's nonsense. We all have that. But we don't have to listen to that voice, and when you have the pieces in place to build that confidence and crush that doubt, you don't listen to that voice for very long because you have a plan. You can just go, oh, if I feel like this, it's probably this that's happening, and therefore I can do this, that, and the other.
So, what are some of those movements that an entrepreneur can do to boost that confidence or that resilience?
Yeah, it's basically the 3 phases of the potent productivity method. So we've got clarity in the foundations, we've got the balance across your tasks and making sure that you're covering every aspect of your business. And then it's a plan, a direction of knowing what to do when things go wrong.
So just because you know what you need to do doesn't mean that you can get unstuck to do it just like that. Because the best laid plans can be laid out in front of the most brilliant mind, and they can just be sitting there staring at it,
Yes.
stuck. What do they do?
That's when I would be suggesting to people that they reach out for help. Okay.
What kind of help?
This is the question. Because there's lots of people in our lives who are 100% behind us, whatever we do, right? They want us to succeed, but they're not necessarily the right people to ask for the help that you need. I almost lost my relationship because I didn't ask the right person for help. I was struggling with my business. I didn't know what to do about it. The person that I wanted to talk to most was my partner, Pete, and he didn't know how to help me. And I didn't appreciate just how uncomfortable it made him feel to not to be able to help me. All he wanted to do was help, but he didn't know how. He doesn't understand what I do every day on the computer. We're total opposites like that. He's a landscape gardener. He's very practical. He does things with his hands. I can't do what he does. And I don't know how to fix it. What are you asking me for? How am I supposed to know? Oh, but I thought that because I was dealing with my business and maybe I was struggling to get a webinar out or I wasn't getting enough leads, same goes. What are you asking me for? But he was trying to understand and he was trying to listen. And it got to the point where he got so upset not being able to help me that we had to agree not to talk about my business. And that was the only thing that saved the relationship, because it had got to the point where we were just arguing, and we don't argue. We're not arguing people. And he didn't enjoy it. I wasn't enjoying it. And it made me realize that who you ask for help is just as important as being able to ask for help. So you need to recognize what kind of help it is that you're looking for. Who is the right person to give you that help in your sphere of influence? And what I could have done was say to Pete, I'm really struggling with this problem. Do you know anybody that can help me with this? And his son, Darren, is a whiz at computers. And he probably would have said, oh, Darren does that stuff all the time. Go speak to him. I'd have been like, great. Now I know who to talk to. But that never happened. It would now, because I'm more aware of asking the right person for the right help.
Yeah, and that's brilliant. And I too, I can tell you that when I had my restaurant, I'm asking a close friend, why don't I do this? And they're like, I don't know how to run a business. What are you asking me for? And what I was looking for is emotional gratification. I wanted some validation, but I was getting it from the quickest, easiest, most trustworthy place because I didn't have the help in place. And for me, that help now is a coach. Every successful athlete has a coach. Every successful business owner has a coach. There's a reason for that. You will not find a CEO of any major company that does not have a coach. It doesn't exist. They have a coach that knows their business, that knows them, and knows how to give them exactly the guidance that they need to get unstuck, to move past that obstacle.
Yes.
Or through whatever the emotional resistance is.
Yeah.
Or to move past the confusion and the uncertainty. A lot of people don't know how to ask for help.
Oh, and a lot of the times they don't know what to ask either. So many times I've worked with people and I keep saying to them, come to me, we'll empty out your brain of all the half-formed ideas, all the stuff you don't really know how to put into words. We'll just shake it all out and I'll give it back to you in a logical, coherent way. And they're like, this is exactly it. And that it's really important that you ask the right people for the help that you need. So knowing what kind of help you need and the type of person you need to help you is really key.
And without that, I know for me, it's like I would end up being stuck. Why is this happening to me? Why is this happening to me? I end up playing the victim. I end up feeling like everything's out to get me. And I end up feeling like no matter how hard I try, this is going to fail. And every business owner that I know has been through that process.
Oh, yeah.
And that's only because I didn't know that I needed to ask for help and I didn't know what help I needed and I didn't know who that right person was. So otherwise, without that information, I get to play victim, and I can victimize my way right into bankruptcy, out of business completely.
Yeah.
Because it's not sustainable. It doesn't work. It doesn't at all. So fantastic. Yeah. Wow. Let's focus on wrapping up here. We've been going on for a great while. This is fantastic. And I wanted to ask you, what is the most surprising thing that you've learned writing this book and coaching other entrepreneurs?
The most surprising thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the most surprising thing has been that the method has been inside of me for so long that I just didn't know it. And it was only when I started writing the book that I started putting it into words. I was like, oh, that's how I do things. And working with solo business owners has been such a privilege and working with people in pain as well is a real honor because you're seeing people at their most vulnerable. But they are totally directionless. They don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it for themselves, but they're trusting me with that information and being able to help somebody just because of something that is normal to me, it's common sense to me. It feels everybody should do this, shouldn't they? And just being able to do that is such an amazing experience. And yeah, I don't think I'll ever get sick of experiencing that.
Because I know that the business owners that I've worked with, and even myself, being afraid to share with another person the real muck of what's going on in the business because they're afraid of being sold on something that's not going to work again. They spend so much money, so much mistrust, so much doubt, and so much fear of being victimized. There are people that don't care about your business, that all they want is your money, and they will tell you whatever you want to hear to get your money and then leave you hanging. And so you feel more vulnerable and underserved. So being able to find somebody like yourself, myself, another really excellent coach that cares
Mm.
enough to be able to listen and to, through that listening, be able to serve. And that's a gift. And thank you for being one of those amazing people that has that gift.
Thank you very much. And it's been an absolute pleasure to write this down in a book so that people can access that information. Because it breaks my heart that so many solo business owners have been through, are going through the same struggle that I have and that you have. And there's just no need. They just need to know the pieces and put the pieces in place so that they can just keep moving forwards.
Great. And Sarah, this has been a wonderful conversation. We have talked about so many amazing things, but is there anything that you want to say that you haven't said yet? Or is there a question I haven't asked that you wished I would have asked? Now's that time.
No, I think we've covered so much stuff. Yeah, again, it's just a privilege, and I have really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Okay. So how do people get in touch with you?
So they can get the book at stopdoingitallbook.com, and they can find me on social media. I'm on YouTube at SJP Business Development. Yeah, and LinkedIn, Sarah J. Pitt. So you'll find me out there. Just type in Potent Productivity Method and something will come.
Is there a potentproductivity.com as well?
There is, yes.
Okay.
I don't think it goes to the book, but I think it goes to the main website.
Okay, great. Yeah. Stopdoingitallbook.com.
Yes.
And look up Sarah J. Pitts on social media, LinkedIn. Fantastic. And then potentproductivitymethod.com if you just want more information about the coaching. And what is wrapping up here? Oh, one other question. Do you have any workshops or courses coming up that you want people to know about?
Well, I can't really say too much right now because it is still in the development phases, but I am developing the Potent Productivity Academy, which will help people to put those pieces into place and get a certification at the end of it so that they know that they have done it right and that they have got all the pieces that they need to be able to build a successful business. I'm really excited about that, but I can't really say too much else. So.
That's all right. One final piece of advice or words of wisdom as we sign off here?
Yeah, just don't do it on your own. We've all been there. We've all done it. We've all suffered. Please don't suffer.
Yeah.
People who are in the same situation or have been in the same situation as you. People have been doing business way before money was even invented. We've been doing this a long time, and we all think we have to do it on our own, and we don't.
Thank you so much, Sarah. That's all the time that we have today. And thank you, everybody, for spending time with us today. And Sarah, I wish you continued great success. And thank all of you for joining the Coach's Helper podcast, our inaugural episode with Sarah J. Pitts, Stop Doing It All. And she's a best-selling author and coach. We'll look her up at stopdoingitallbook.com. And if you want more information about the Coach's Helper, just visit thecoacheshelper.com. That's all the time we have for today, folks. Have a great day.